eyebrows. Such a serious subject, especially to me. As someone who has done their brows for 20 years now, God, that makes me sound really old. I was 12, 13, around there when I started doing my eyebrows, and I'm 32, so yeah, that's like 20 years, right? I don't know, I can't do math either. Yeah, I've been doing my brows for a very, very long time and filling them in, and I'm really happy with the way they look currently. And recently I've been getting a lot of requests on how I do my brows, so I was like, you know what? Let's do that brow routine video. I do have a couple blog posts talking about eyebrow routines and this and that. Like, I have some really in-depth blog posts about eyebrows, which I'll link below. But in today's video, I'm going to show you step by step how I fill my brows in, all the extra steps I take, because girl, it is too much. I know, is a very extra brow routine, but this is kind of my polished glam brow. My goodness, my little producer down here. Hello. Yes. Before we get into my eyebrow routine, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe, and let me know if there's anything you would like to see a more in-depth video on below. And without further ado, let's get into these eyebrows. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on my eyebrows. The first thing I like to do just about every day is just check them over, see if there's any stragglers, crazy hairs that just don't belong. Like, my hair tends to start growing at my hairline and all the way to my brow, and it will go all the way to the crease of my lid practically. But they're very sparse, sporadic hair. So usually when I'm first starting out, right after I've done my skincare and everything, I go through and make sure there's nothing that needs to be groomed or tidied up. And my favorite thing to do that with is these little shavers. These are little disposable shavers. You can get these at Walmart, the drugstore, Amazon, wherever, and you can get them in huge packs. So what I'll do is I'll take this and go in and just hold my skin taut, and take off any hairs I feel like need to go. Do use caution with this, and it can cut you. It is sharp. But yeah, this is my favorite thing to use, because if you do make a mistake, it's just shaved. It's not plucked. It'll grow back. It's not a big deal. You will have to do this more frequently, obviously, than waxing or plucking. Right here, I get a little, like 5 black hairs right here. It's very strange, but mostly I have just tons of very fine blonde hair around my brows that when I tint them, they look so much more fuller because they're so pale. But also, we'll kind of clean up here a little bit, just like this, real gentle. If there's a stubborn one or whatever that this is just not getting, I'll go in with my little, I like these little needle nose tweezers because I feel like I can get really good precision and get in there and get after the hairs. My brows are naturally quite arched, so I just kind of go with the flow of the shape. I don't fight it. I used to fight it. I used to shave off from the arches back. I used to not have anything and would draw on these huge, crazy goth brows, and it was a look. Oh, it was a look. But yeah, I'm kind of over that these days and want a more full, natural brow. I do try to encourage the bushiness a little bit. I have trimmed them the other day. I usually use some little manicure scissors. I can't find my manicure scissors, but ideally what I would do is take a, you take a spoolie, you brush them up, and you snip off whatever hair is sticking up crazy. And this I do very sporadically, just when I feel like it. I don't do it very often, in fact, and I usually do it then regret it, because I feel like it grooms my brows too much. It makes them a little too short. So I do like them being a little bushy and a little wild. I don't mind that at all. That's usually just my quick groom I do every day. I don't sit down and like, well, it's eyebrow plucking day or anything. I just do what needs to be done that day, maintain my shape. I have definitely overdone the plucking in my day, the shaving, for a very long time. I think I got my eyebrows waxed when I was 12 for the first time, 12 or 13. And then my little grubby hands got a hold of some tweezers. And basically I've been filling my eyebrows in since then. And I'm 32, so I've been doing my brows for 20 years. I've been filling them in and grooming them myself, for better or worse. I think these days definitely for the better. and I get lots and lots of questions about my eyebrows. So the next thing I like to do is take a little bit of eyeshadow primer. Now at this point, I've not done my foundation or anything. I've just done my skincare. I always do my brows before anything else because I use them as kind of a guide for my eyeshadow. I feel like it just sets the tone of the face for that day. I don't know, I personally like having my brows on first. It's a thing, and yeah, it can complicate stuff at times, but other times it makes it easier to me. It's just my preference. You can do your brows at any point in your makeup routine that you see fit. It doesn't matter. But yeah, next thing I do is take some eyeshadow primer. Less is more with eyeshadow primer. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, is they think eyeshadow primer doesn't work, but I think they're probably using too much. I mean, just a teensy, a tiny amount. And I usually tap it on my hand and then go in and just pat, you know, as I would like prime my lid for eyeshadow is what I'm doing now also. But what I do is I bring it through the brow. Because I have a lot of bald patches, and especially from when I did not have hardly any brow hairs, this was a technique I picked up. But basically, put some primer, eyeshadow primer through the brows. It gives the product something to cling on to and hold it in place, and they're less likely to melt off throughout the day. So next would be filling in my actual eyebrows. My favorite eyebrow pencil is this one from NYX. It is their eyebrow powder pencil. This is in the shade Espresso. These come in a ton of shades. They're fantastic, but they are not the most long-wearing pencil in the world. Like, they're very smudgy and soft, and they're very powdery in texture. I love them because they're like that. And they're easy to use, and I can clean it up if I've made a mess or something, or like made a mistake. I can just take a little Q-tip and boop, tidy it up. I don't know, there's something about these. They're very buildable. You can do them with a light hand or a heavier hand, and it doesn't look skippy or weird like sometimes it will with a waxier pencil. The e.l.f. one, which is their e.l.f. just brow pencil, like this. It's not necessarily a micro pencil, it's just a small retractable pencil. This is in their dark brown shade, I believe. I like it, pretty good. And my other favorite one to go to is the Wet n Wild retractable pencil. This is one of those that's like kind of blade shaped. It's good for like sketching in some little hairs. The formula in these is a little waxier, but I like the shades that they have. This is the medium brown shade. I really like it. It's like a perfect match for my brow hairs. So yeah, this is something I would grab just to run out the door. This is the pencil I go for. But when I really want my eyebrows to be groomed and glam and perfect, I start with this guy, but halfway before the arch. And I'll just start light hand following the shape of my brow. Of course, brush your hairs up or down, however you prefer to do it. Sometimes I brush them down, sometimes I brush them up. Most of the time I brush them up, just so I can see the shape my brow naturally flows in. And I can see what really needs filling in and the shape I want to encourage. I find usually working with the shape your brows naturally want to go in is going to be the most flattering and easiest thing to do for your face. Start about right here, and I just start sketching along, following the natural shape of the bottom of my brow, the lower part. Just light hand. This is kind of the preliminary shape I'm going to go with. Sometimes I'll bring my tail out a little straighter, sometimes I'll arch it a little more. It depends, because I don't have a whole lot of hair out here. I can kind of get away with that. This brow has less hair because of this stupid eyebrow ring. It rejected and have lost scar tissue there, so my hair never really grew back properly. Yeah. Next I'll take from the top of the arch right here and just kind of merge into the tail. And I'm using a very light hand. This pencil can go darker if you press harder. And of course it does come in a lot of shades. They have some wonderful ash tones, auburn shades, dark browns. I say this is espresso, and it seems kind of light, but if I pushed harder it will get deeper. You see slowly the pigment starts to build up. Yeah, I'm just following literally the shape of my eyebrow and just kind of filling it in and sketching it out. And when we get to the inner part, I just pull it over and do some little upward strokes through the hairs where I need less product. Most of my trouble area is from the arch back through the tail, which is pretty common. Most people don't have super thick tails in their brows. Most of us really aren't blessed in the brow department and have to kind of work for it. My brows have always been kind of thin on the tail, but I've always had just a lot of hairs that went so they have to be groomed at the same time. Even though my brows are pretty arched, I try to straighten them out just a little bit because I think it's a little more youthful rather than a very dramatically arched brow. And I try to let them grow in a little bit lower. So I try to kind of pull them down just a little bit, not crazy block brows or anything, but just straighten out the arch just a touch. And my eyebrows are so arched. I feel like this is a good step, and because I have such a heavy brow bone as well, it helps kind of balance it out. So at this point, I will try to match this on this brow. Keep in mind, brows are not twins. They are sisters, cousins. They don't have to be exact. Like my brows, I think sometimes aren't even in the same family. They're pen pals from two sides of the world, like at best. Do the same thing on the other side. Just lightly coming through, following the shape that's naturally there. Kind of bring the tail out a little bit straighter, which will also give the eye a lift. I know a lot of, especially if you're around my age, late 20s, early to mid 30s, you probably overplucked the ever-living shit out of your brows in the late 90s, early 2000s because it was the trend. Sperm brows were like all the rage. Early 90s, you fucking had just a drawn-on arch of a brow. It was a thing. Also, as you age, your brows tend to thin out. It's just something that happens. Your eyes become a little more hooded. You end up with a little more space there. So that's why filling them in a little more in the arch and stuff does give you more of a youthful appearance. And yeah, I take a fair bit of time on my eyebrows. It's probably one of the longer parts of my makeup routine next to eyeshadow. But I feel like taking your time and perfecting something, it's something I enjoy doing personally. I know this is not something everybody's gonna want to do, and that's fine. That is totally fine. But it's been requested to show you how I do things. My brow routine, so I'm showing you my stupid extra brow routine. Because you're gonna be like, are you kidding me? Another step, another step. But it's important to look kind of far back from your brows and make sure the shapes are looking as similar as you can. Like you can see, this one's looking much fuller in the front, so what we do is we go in and fill it out a little more on this side. This brow is naturally smaller than this one, and a little bit thicker at the same time. Like it has more dense hair, but I think they're looking fairly even. I'll take the spoolie on the end and just kind of go through, soften the front part. I don't do the ombre brow. I don't love that look. For me personally, I know that it's popular on the old Instagrams and stuff, and I know some people do love that. I don't know, it's not for me. It doesn't suit me, or my face in particular. This is kind of all I would do if I was just going to get lunch, go and get some groceries or something. It's this and mascara, and that would be it, and I'd be done. Okay, and next, this is where things are going to start to get a little extra. I like to go in with a powder product over this pencil just to kind of add some nuance to the color and dimension, and perfect the tone a little bit to however I feel like is matching my hair the best that day. I will use any sort of eyeshadow. It doesn't matter. Like, for example, if I have my hair like plummy purple or something like I did last fall, I used a purple eyeshadow through my brows over my brown brow pencil, and it gave it just an interesting tone. So yeah, I'll just use whatever eyeshadow is kind of suiting my mood at the time. Like right now I'm just using a deep brown eyeshadow from a Tarte palette that just happens to be in front of me. It's easy right now because of my hair color. I can kind of just use like whatever brown is lying around in about a million palettes. But yeah, just any deep brown tends to work for me. Sometimes I'll go with a cool one, sometimes I go with a more warm one. Really depends on what color is in my hair, because my hair color tends to change fairly often. What I'll do is I will take the eyeshadow or the brow powder or whatever, just a powder product, and I'll start to run that through the eyebrow where I filled in with the pencil. And it kind of just sets it down, gives a little more dimension to the brow and some depth. Any little angled brush will work. Just go through and flick the powder through the brow. And when I get to the front, I kind of flick upward with a light hand, just to kind of mimic a hair-like stroke. And so that just gives a little bit more depth and, like, I don't know, just something to the brow. To me, it makes them look a little more real, and it makes them last a little longer by having the powder layered over the pencil product. These steps and the way I'm doing my brows has come from, I want to say, 20 years of experimenting and trying products. I've tried every type of brow product under the sun, just about, and just about every brow shape under the sun. And yeah, I've landed on a little routine that I like. And yeah, there's a lot of steps to it, but it gives me my best result that I've ever had. Like, I've used pomades, I've used paint on stuff, I've used liquid stuff, you name it, I've done it. This is what's really working for me right now. Now, once I've gone through with the powder, I'll take just a concealer brush, a flat brush, whatever I like to use. This is one I just like to use to kind of carve out the brows. And I'll take whatever concealer it is I am using at the moment. Like today, I'm using the CoverGirl True Blend Undercover. I'm going to use this one to prime my eyes today. And I'm also going to use it to carve out my lids, which is what we're going to do right now. I take a little bit, not carve out my lids, I'm sorry, carve out my brows. I'm going to take a little bit of this on the back of my hand, and with my little concealer brush, whichever kind you like using, doesn't matter, I will go start underneath the brow at the front here and just pull it along. And tidy up the shape. This will also give a nice lift to the brow without looking too harsh. Just doing that cleans up the brow, gives a nice lift, and just makes it look very groomed and polished. So we're not like, you know, doing Instagram carved out super duper brows or anything. We're just cleaning them up with concealer. I'll take it just on this front part here, just to kind of make sure everything looks nice and clean. I just like to tidy up the tail mostly, and the top sometimes. I tend to blend up too much and it'll get a little messy. And if I feel like the front of my brow is looking too blocky or heavy, I'll take my concealer brush and just flick through and just soften that up. And it does kind of give a little bit of that brow ombre, but a very natural one. Alright, so now that I have carved out the brow and primed the lid with the concealer, I'll go ahead and take some translucent powder on a big old fluffy brush here and just go ahead and run that through and set the lid to prevent any further creasing or anything. But when I'm doing this, I'll also take the powder up through the brow just to kind of, I don't know, it softens it and kind of sets it. I don't know what this does, but it does something for me, and I feel like it really just locks my brow in. It's a very strange thing, but I don't know, I like it. I like the way it looks. So I think it gets rid of any harshness and makes the brows look really natural. It almost makes them look real. And at this point, I would go on and do my eyeshadow and everything else. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I will see you guys back here in a minute, and I'll show you how I finish the brows off. So let's finish up these brows. I've done my foundation, eyeshadow, translucent powder. I've even went ahead and put on my false lashes. I haven't done my lower lash line yet, but anyway, let's just go ahead and polish these brows off while we're at it. My next step is to take a micro brow pencil. My two current favorites are the one from CoverGirl and the one from Wet n Wild. The Wet n Wild one definitely, it's just a little bit hard to find. I have to actually go to Walgreens or somewhere to get it. This one costs a little bit more than the Wet n Wild, obviously. The Wet n Wild one is just perfection. I really, really like the shade of it and everything, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to finish it up. My spoolie has broke off of it. So what I do now at this point, because I've done my eyeshadow, been blending, I've done my foundation and all that, and you know, brows got a little messed up in this process. But I also, it's my fault because I like to do my brows before I do everything else. Obviously, you could do your brows last and avoid that issue. Anyway, what I do is I'll take my micro pencil at this point. I don't do my full brow with the micro pencil because I would go through one of these a week probably. So I use them as like a detail tool and kind of a touch-up tool after I'm kind of finishing up my makeup and just filling in any spots I may have messed up, or if I feel like my brows need to be a little bit bolder to match up to the eyeshadow or something. This is the point that I kind of bring it back in. So I just take this one and like just tidy up, say the tail a little bit, right here at the arch, on a little more definition. Right here at the front, do some little hair-like strokes. And yeah, that's basically all I do with this pencil. It's just like a nice little added detail, I think. I know it's so much like extra nonsense no one really needs to do with their brows. It's just me. It's just how I roll, and like I said, after years and years of experimenting and stuff, I finally have a technique that I really like and feel like gives me good results. Is important. And that's all that really matters to me. I don't mind putting in the extra steps. So I thoroughly enjoy like every step of makeup except for putting on false lashes. I'm having a wonky lash today. Don't judge me. Final steps for the brows. This is where things get a little interesting. I was watching Jay Kissa video, and she was doing like some tips and techniques and stuff that she's picked up along the way. And one of the most genius things that she did was using a lash primer, like a mascara primer, through her brows. And I was like, that's freaking genius. I'm gonna try that. And I did, and it is fantastic. I use the L'Oreal Voluminous one. It's pretty cheap. You can pick it up at the drugstore. This one I've designated just for brows because it will get a little dirty, you know, and I don't want to put on my lashes or put through my brows. It's just a thing. I don't want to risk my poor little eyeballs. This lash, my goodness. Anyway, so what you do is you just make sure it's not like a whole bunch glued on there. Take it and run it through your brow hairs, and this will give the same effect as having soap brows without the pain in the ass of doing soap brows. 'Cause I find soap brows look amazing, but they are so much like I feel like they just make a mess, and I don't know. They're good if you're doing like a no makeup day, but yeah, this gives that same look. The bushy full brows that are tame and just in place and beautiful without all the soap. But this is, you know, will give some volume to your brow hairs, and just, I don't know, it does something magical, and I think it was one of the best techniques I have implemented in my brow routine. And I will go in next with my brow mascara. Right now I'm just using the CoverGirl, what is it, Shape and Define. I think they have a new one that's like volumizing that I really want to check out. This one's working for now, and yeah, I'm just gonna use it until it runs out. Yeah, I just brush my hairs up and let them be kind of crazy, do what they want, whatever. Yeah, the front ones I kind of brush up and then I'll let them flow over a little bit and kind of brush them out. Another tip when you're using a brow gel, if it's new, take all the excess off, either on a paper towel or around the edge or something, because it will not be good. Having too much brow gel in your brows is never, it looks weird. And the reason I wait until after I've done everything else and use this as a last step, because if I get foundation or powder or something in my brows after I've done these steps, it gets real gloopy, real gross and cakey looking, and just bleh. Yeah. And that's the eyebrows finished. I think they look full, they look kind of, they don't look overdone. I think they're still natural but still like polished, finished looking, filled in, and they balance with the eye. Like if I was doing less eyeshadow, I would go a little lighter hand on the brows. So I usually kind of try to start with a slightly lighter hand and then kind of build them with the micro brow later and really add any intensity I feel like they need. So yeah, basically that is my brow routine. Yeah, I know it's a lot of steps and very extra and completely unnecessary to do all those things, but it's, you know, everybody has their own preference of how they like to do things, and this is how I like to do my eyebrows. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, maybe picked up a tip or a trick in here, and yeah. So yeah, if there's something you're interested in seeing me test out in my eyebrows, just leave it in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye now.